Hey everybody, this is Hughdidit. I'm Hugh Chapman, and this is my 100 Days of Making Comics Challenge series for 2019. Um, we're going to be, this is the review day, so we're just going to review what we did the last 7 days. We're going to be reviewing writing our script for the story. So let's just cut right to that. So how we started writing our script was we needed to build a premise, and if you can find a template somewhere to help you with this, it's helpful. But if not, I'll give you the basic elements you need to start to define to build your premise, and that's the setting, your main character, your antagonist, the situation, the inciting event, and your conflict. So your conflict is also defined by reactions of the antagonist and the main character to the conflict, how you sustain the conflict. So that is actually sort of how do you keep raising the stakes to keep the characters trying to resolve it and keep the story more and more interesting. Um, what are the stakes for each of the characters, and what choice or choices does the hero make? That's the main character. Okay, so what I worked on was this worksheet that I have in Evernote, and basically we just filled this out. We had a basic idea of for unicorns and werewolves as a sort of boy meets girl story. Um, we decided the place was going to be a bar. The time was full moon, obviously. Um, and then it's a short story, so we didn't have to get into the characters too much, but we basically have our main characters, which is a unicorn, a male. Um, he is basically the premise for him being a unicorn was that he was a furry or a cosplay uh, kind of enthusiast, and he's wearing that unicorn head when he meets the antagonist, which is the werewolf, which is a girl. And so what does that character want? Well, obviously these two people want to meet somebody and fall in love. Um, Also, since he's a unicorn, we kind of came up with the idea that he's a do-gooder. He's got to do good. Um, and the opposite is true, actually, of the female, which we didn't put in here, but that would be the case. The antagonist. The antagonist is a werewolf, a female. Um, the relationship is they just meet at a bar. Um, Unbeknownst to the main character, she's a werewolf, so he doesn't know. Uh, because of her curse, and she can't really keep a boyfriend because she keeps killing them. um, she really wants to find somebody to fall in love with. So she's driven by that. The situation is that we started out by the furries, came into the bar. Um, the main character starts the conversation with the antagonist who's sitting in the bar. The inciting incident is a full moon comes up and she turns into a werewolf. And that sort of becomes the life and death stakes, which is what we're talking about for these two characters. Um, how does the character react to the inciting incident? The main character is taken by surprise. uh, yeah, so the werewolf takes the main character by surprise, and then the choices that the hero makes is to help the werewolf by revealing he's a real unicorn and taking her curse away, which is what unicorns can do because they can dispel evil. So once you've done all that, the purpose of doing this is to take your premise, uh, and you need to convert your premise into a script. Obviously, a premise isn't good enough. So I want to say this to all writers out there, because I've had lots of writers come to me with a premise that they just have a good idea. You'll see this on Reddit every day of the week, 100 times a day, that they just have a good idea and they don't have a script. So advice to artists is if your writer doesn't have a script, bail on it, because it's just going to be a headache. And B, if you're a writer, you're unless you're like super lucky and you happen to find a good artist who doesn't really have the experience to know that a writer should have a script, you're not going to find a writer for your idea unless you have a script. So do everybody a favor and write out your idea in a script. Um, so, in order to sell your premise, you need a pitch, and the template here has a, a system for turning uh, what we've defined up here into a pitch. So you simply distill all of those ideas down into 2 sentences, and we came up with "girl meets unicorn in a bar and turns into werewolf when they get passionate. Lucky for her, he's a real unicorn." So that would be our pitch to anybody who wanted to know what the story was about, right? If we were going to try to sell the story, you need to have a pitch to give to people who could finance your story or um, write your story or the artist to draw your story, because you need to get their attention quickly. You hear all kinds of stuff all the time, and if it's not clear and concise, the other party kind of generally thinks you don't know what you're doing. So this is an essential part of this step. So from there, um, just a second, I'm just going to bring up our script. Okay, so we started writing our script from our premise. What I will put into the comments below is a link to the standard comic book format that we used. Um, and this is popular because it's got the panels in it. Uh, Another format that's popular is just a Hollywood script format, which you can look up by Google searching that. So this is following that format. You have your name, contact information at the top. That's for submitting your script to places. Our title for our script is going to be Enchanted Encounter, which is actually the name of the bar. And it basically describes the plot. Um, and I won't go into full detail of the script. You can go back and watch the previous videos of this, and you can also go to my where have I got it here? Over there, patreon.com/Hughdidit. You can go over there and read the script. I'm going to post that today. But some points I want to go over with about script writing. start from the ending. So figure out what your ending situation is going to be, what your climax is, not necessarily the anticlimax, but the climax, so that you kind of know how all of these conflicts are going to come to a meeting, to a crossroads. And it'd be nice to know, you kind of know what the ending is going to be, but not how you're going to. You can know, but you don't have to know how you're going to resolve that. But so know your ending first, at least that much of it. And then remember that every story is basically a three-act, at its very basic premise, is a three-act um, play where it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. In the beginning, you want to introduce your characters, and really at the end of the beginning of the middle is the inciting incident, right? So that's the event that sort of changes your story to the rising of stakes to the middle of the story. And so the middle of the story is right after the inciting incident, the raising of stakes all the way up until your climax, where all of your conflicts come to a conflagration. And then the end is how that conflagration is resolved, what the ending is, and uh, the anticlimax, which is sort of the epilogue, um, or the prologue, sorry, uh, and the resolution of the aftermath of the conflict. Um, and then be prepared to rewrite. Writing is rewriting. Usually, your first idea is not the best one. Usually, your first draft is not the best one. Part of uh, helpful idea in writing is just realize that your first draft is not going to be your best draft or your finished draft, and just spit it out and do it quickly. And if you get over that idea of trying to make the first one the best draft, or whatever it is you're writing, the best thing, you'll probably have less writer's block, and you'll be able to plow through it a lot quicker. Um, So we basically spit this script out in just 30 minutes a day for 5 days, and one 30-minute session to rewrite it. So that's pretty good. I mean, if you think about that, you can on just 30 minutes a day. If this was 4 pages, so if we wanted to write a 22-page comic book, we basically could get that done in, let's say this took 7 days. Um, so 3 pages be about 7 times. So if we were just working 30 minutes a day on the story, you could probably put out a 22-page comic book in 2 months, around there, maybe less, maybe a month and a half. Um, so that's only 30 seconds. So if you were putting in a full day of writing, let's see. So if we reduce that down to 8 hours, would be, you could probably get like a comic book written in three or 4 days. So that's how productive you could be. Um, so I promised everybody a little story. Um, and I wanted to find, it was basically a, a little story that was insightful to me about writing. And it was actually a TED talk that I saw on YouTube, and I tried and I looked and I tried to find the link to it, and I don't know, um, maybe it's been deleted, or I just couldn't find the right search criteria to find it again. Um, but the basic idea was that this guy was talking about how he learned about writing from chopping wood for a writer in Maine, and he used to chop the guy's wood for him for the winter. And he had come out one day and said that you chop wood like a good writer. Would you be interested in writing? And so he started teaching him about writing. And the premise of the idea was that a story or a poem or anything like that is like a woodpile, and each word that you cut out of the wood is a piece on top of that woodpile. And how you make that woodpile look in the end is all about how you stacked and how you chose and how you fit all those words together. For me, it was, it might be a very simple idea, but for me, it was really a very epiphanal idea that you need to consider each word very carefully, every sentence, how it's structured and put together, and each word. So, just to illuminate that idea a little better for you, there are lots of different words, especially in the English language, for the same thing or same-ish thing, right? Like, this is the audio judge. I'm stepping in here because Hugh has butchered this description of different words. So here we go. Consider 3 different words for green. There's green, there's verdigris, and there's chartreuse. Each one of those words basically means green. They apply to a different shade of green, yes, but also think about in your writing how using chartreuse versus green might give more of an impression of an estate, maybe like a very fancy house, or it might give an impression of a delicate flower versus just straight green, right? And verdigris does give the impression of something old, antique, right? So using different words paints a different picture in your reader's head. So be always cognizant of how you are putting those words together to paint a picture. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about with like each piece of wood that you put on that lumber pile. So choose your words carefully. So I'm gonna leave you with that. If you like the video, click the like button. If you really liked it, make sure you click subscribe. Click that button the bell next to the subscribe button so you make sure you get notifications the next time I put out a video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.